Republican Congressman-elect George Santos admitting to embellishing parts of his resume. He also claimed his grandparents survived the Holocaust and he was Jewish, but then he turned around and said that what he meant was he is Jew-ish. In a new interview, Santos says he has not committed any crimes and can still effectively serve in Congress.
I didn't outright lie about my work experience. Actually, I'm fairly well-rounded in the financial markets and capital markets. I've been doing it for a very long time. Did I embellish my resume? Yes, I did. And I'm sorry. And it shouldn't be done. And there's words can't express 100% how I feel, but I'm still the same guy. I'm not a fraud. This will not deter me from being an effective member of the United States Congress in the 118th session.
CNN's Eva McKend is following this story. I cannot help but have to ask you, what is this ish we're talking about? How many lies did he tell about his resume alone?
Well, Sarah, there are just countless lies. It's hard to keep count. He's characterizing his many false claims as embellishments, but this goes beyond that. He's boasted of working for investment banks, for instance, Citigroup and Goldman Sachs. He now admits he did not. The congressman-elect claimed he received degrees from both NYU and Baruch College. He now says he did not. He said he owned 13 different properties, another lie. But he maintains he's not a criminal and still intends to serve in Congress.
So, as I've said many times, and I think you've heard me say this, I always joke, I'm Catholic, but I'm also Jew-ish, as in ish. And I've made that joke because growing up, I grew up fully aware that my grandparents were Jewish, came from a Jewish family, and they were refugees to Brazil. And that was always the story I grew up with, and I've always known it very well. And I've told it the way it was told to me.
So CNN learned that Santos described himself as a proud American Jew in a document he shared with prominent Jewish groups. The Republican Jewish Coalition now saying they were deceived and he won't be welcome at any future RJC events. But they aren't calling for him to step down, and neither is Republican leader Kevin McCarthy, who we haven't heard from, Sarah, since this scandal broke.
I can't help. This is just crazy sauce. This is, there's so many things that as you go down the list of things, is there any indication of why he lied, especially about his religion?
Yeah, I think that the questions remain there. You know, I know that CNN, we want to speak with him. I think it'll be interesting once he sits before a less sort of friendly media outlet. He's only spoken to conservative press in the wake of this scandal. But truly, no, he has not really detailed the why. I think he's sort of maybe leaving an opening to say that this was sort of the family history that was told to him. That seems to be what he's suggesting, to give him an opening to say that he didn't actually lie here. But, you know, Sarah, this just does not make a whole lot of sense. And I imagine in the coming days, we will continue to learn more.
Eva McKend, thank you, as always, for some great reporting there. Joining me now to discuss all of this, CNN political commentator and Republican strategist Alice Stewart, and former advisor to Vice President Mike Pence, Olivia Troye. All right, and Alice, I'll start with you. Santos described those lies as resume embellishments. You tweeted that his lies are a problem. That seems like an understatement. What is most worrisome to you?
Well, character counts, Sarah, and he has proven to be someone who is devoid of speaking the truth. Look, he has repeatedly lied to the people that elected him to serve in Congress. And if so, how can he be trusted to be a member of Congress? How can he be sworn in and trusted with national security issues and issues that are so critical to our country? Those are valid questions. Sarah, he says he's not a fraud. Look at the definition of fraud. It's a person who knowingly deceives others by overinflating their accomplishments and their qualities. That's what he's done time and time again. And in my view, it's up to the people of his district what happens, but I think it's going to be extremely impossible to trust him as a member of Congress given these repeated lies. And look, he says he wants to be seated in Congress. He says that he wants to serve the people of his district. Well, I would highly recommend that the real George Santos stand up, run again in 2 years on his real record, his real name, his real accomplishments, and not this Leonardo DiCaprio starring as Catch Me If You Can character, who no one really knows exactly who he is and what he stands for.
That was a mic drop moment. All the things that you just said there, but all the things that you say, looking up the word fraud, is actually true. You lie about everything, you embellish. And generally, Olivia, do you think he's done all this stuff, saying that he's Jewish, saying that his grandparents survived the Holocaust, none of which can be corroborated, and now he's saying he's Jewish, and now he's saying, well, I didn't really work at Goldman Sachs, but I sort of did. I mean, it's like he's trying to go around this. Why did he do all this? Was it simply to try and get votes from different groups of people?
Yeah, it certainly seems that he was pandering to different groups and trying to appeal, but I think also it seems like he's just a pathological liar. And to Alice's point, I think that speaks to his character and his lack of integrity. And it actually calls into question what's he going to do once he's in Congress. And look, there's questions about what happened in his campaign in terms of the campaign finance, what really went on there. I think those are questions that he will need to answer to and account for. But the reality is this is just plain sick. I still can't get over the fact that he lied about having employees in that Pulse nightclub shooting. I just think that's so heinous to use personal tragedy for political gain. I don't know what you get from that. And I think that just says a lot about who he is at the core.
This is for both of you, and I'll start with you, Olivia. You know, there's always opposition research, or as we call it in real life, digging dirt on either side. The Democrats would dig up dirt on the Republicans, the Republicans would dig up dirt on the Democrats in any race. How did Democrats miss this one as he was campaigning?
Yeah, I actually have been wondering that. I don't know how you don't double check these things and fact check them. This was a very overtly done thing, apparently. So yeah, they really dropped the ball on this one. But I don't necessarily blame them. There's a lot going on when you're trying to track all these other sort of corrupt GOP people running for office, election deniers, and all of that. I can see. I mean, he's just one charlatan that fits right in with a lot of these other people we're seeing.
Olivia, your take?
Sarah, yeah, so we call that in the campaign world dumpster diving. When you start a campaign, you do vulnerability research on yourself to see where your vulnerabilities are. His campaign clearly dropped the ball on that. And as he became the GOP nominee, the Democrats clearly should have had access to this information and should have done the research on this. We do know that the DCCC did know some of this and put some of this out, but to the degree and the magnitude that the New York Times and the media has uncovered the falsehoods, it's just shocking that it didn't come forward. I do give credit to his Democratic challenger, Robert Zimmerman, who is really actually taking the high road on this in regards, saying that it's up to the people of the district in terms of what they do, and to the Nassau County GOP chairman, who says a blanket apology is simply not enough, and people need to know more answers.
Alice Stewart, Olivia Troye, thank you both so much for coming on and being so candid.